On the news, Nigeria adopts new COVID-19 guideline amid surge in toll as Lagos released dates for reopening of worship centers. Despite widespread anti-rape campaign, Nigerian lawmakers vote against castration for rapists. And WHO resumes hydroxychloroquine trial for COVID-19 treatment. Thanks for joining us on News Now on TV360 Nigeria. A negative laboratory test will no longer be required for the discharge of a COVID-19 patient in Nigeria. New guidelines released by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, directs that symptomatic COVID-19 patients can be discharged 10 days after symptoms onset, while asymptomatic patients should be discharged 14 days after the initial positive result. Director General of the agency, Chikwe Ihikwazu, announced this during a Thursday press briefing of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, a guideline published on the official website of the NCDC based on the agency's decision on data obtained from Singapore, where, quote, viral RNA detected beyond 10 days is no longer infectious as no viable virus is grown by viral culture, end of quote. Ihikwazu also announced that the NCDC has restricted the use of antiviral drugs to contest where clinical trials are going on.
To be honest, we're not suggesting people are discharged while they're still symptomatic. So we're talking about discharging people that are asymptomatic and that have recovered. Either you are symptomatic and you have recovered, or you're completely asymptomatic throughout through your clinical episode. So at that point, you really don't need much more clinical intervention. Even at home, you just need time to recover. If you have been weak, if you're just like you'd recover from any other illness. So you're no longer a threat to public health at that stage. So you don't need any special intervention once you've been discharged.
Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has announced that religious activities will resume in the state on June 19th. The governor made this announcement at a press briefing at the Government House in Marina, Lagos on Thursday. He said while Muslim services will resume on June 19, Christian worship would begin on June 21st. The governor also listed guidelines for the resumption of religious activities. According to him, religious centers must not allow gatherings of more than 40% capacity or 500 people. He adds that only Friday and Sunday prayers will be allowed to hold in churches and mosques, and advised that persons under the age of 15 and older than 65 should avoid attending religious services. The governor also stated that wearing a face mask is compulsory and periodic contamination should be carried out after every service. The federal government says it will disinfect all airports and aircrafts ahead of the resumption of local flights on June 21st. Minister of the Environment, Mohammed Abubakar, said this in Abuja on Thursday while briefing the media to mark the World Environment Day 2020. He said this year's event has been refocused by the COVID-19 pandemic, and as such, all efforts of the government is geared towards restarting the nation's economic life, which has been comatose since the lockdown of the country. The minister also assured that all public schools will be fumigated before they're reopened to ensure the safety of students and teachers.
We have just concluded arrangement with the airports and the aircraft owners. Why it took long is because aviation is such a sensitive sector. Everything must be 100%, 200%, 300%, even 400% before aviation system can function. That's why you have some aircraft that have up to 4 engines, so that when one stops, the others can. Because up there is no parking space. All the parking spaces are down here. So we are working, we have concluded, they have chosen the chemicals that they believe will work well and not cause any safety breaches. We have started, actually. We have our presence in all the 6 geopolitical zones. We are waiting for additional response to accelerate the disinfection of schools. That we will.
Kogi State has recorded its 3rd COVID-19 case less than a week after its index case was reported. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, announced this when it confirmed 348 fresh COVID-19 cases on Wednesday. According to the NCDC, the new cases were recorded across 18 states and the FCT, bringing Nigeria's total COVID-19 tally to 11,166. Of the new cases, 163 were recorded in Lagos, 76 in the FCT, and 23 in Ebonyi. Meanwhile, 1 death was recorded and a total of 3,329 have recovered and have been discharged. The World Health Organization says they have resumed clinical trials of the drug hydroxychloroquine as it searches for potential treatments for COVID-19. On May 25th, the WHO had announced that it had temporarily suspended trials to conduct a safety review. But in a statement on Wednesday, the WHO says it has concluded the review and decided that the trials can continue as they were formally conducted.
Last week, the executive group of the Solidarity Trial decided to implement a temporary pause of the hydroxychloroquine arm of the trial because of concerns raised about the safety of the drug. This decision was taken as a precaution while the safety data were reviewed. The Data Safety and Monitoring Committee of the Solidarity Trial has been reviewing the data. On the basis of the available mortality data, the members of the committee recommended that there are no reasons to modify the trial protocol. The executive group received this recommendation and endorsed the continuation of all arms of Solidarity Trial, including hydroxychloroquine. The executive group will communicate with the principal investigators in the trial about resuming hydroxychloroquine arm of the trial. The Data Safety and Monitoring Committee will continue to closely monitor the safety of all therapeutics being tested in the Solidarity Trial. So far, more than 3,500 patients have been recruited in 35 countries. WHO is committed to accelerating the development of effective therapeutics, vaccines, and diagnostics as part of our commitment to serving the world with science, solutions, and solidarity.
You're still watching news now. We'll be right back after this break.
In the last 3 years, we have built a multi-purpose center, which is the envy of all in our constituency. And I can tell you that the people who are living there are already enjoying it.
Guy, do you think what this man just said is true? See, I seriously doubt. I'm sure it's one of those their silly lies.
And wait, do you know there's a way to find out if these things he's saying is true or not? This is the Construct app. It gives people like us a sure way to track implementation of constituency projects. It gives valid and verified information on location of projects, amounts allocated, amount funded, the level of job done, and even the profiles of concerned legislators. You and I can post directly on this app.
Are you serious?
This is the Go-To app if you want to know how our Commonwealth is being expanded by the government.
Wow. Let's even see if what this man said is true. Show me.
The Construct app is developed by Other People Nigeria with support from USAID and is available on both Google Play Store and Apple Store.
And it's true.
Of course, I told you.
Over the past few days, the social media has been agog with different cases of rape and sexual assault. The outrage has since gained momentum with several hashtags demanding justice for victims of rape in Nigeria. Our correspondent Adeshawa Odushoga has more in this report.
On Wednesday, May 27, 2020, 22-year-old Nigerian student Uwaila Omozuwa would not have thought she'd meet her doom in a place she considered safest. Uwaila had sought the quiet of a church premises to study, completely unaware she was under the watch of her perpetrators, who reportedly raped her in the church building and hit her with a fire extinguisher, leaving her in a pool of blood. The news of her death sparked emotional outpours from angry Nigerians on various social media space, with a call for justice, using the hashtag #JusticeForUwa. Uwa's case has since put a spotlight on the incessant rape cases across the country, with about 4 new rape cases uncovered in a week. Now, what exactly is fueling these rape attacks?
1. Lust. 2. Power. 3. Entitlement. Those are the 3 major reasons, I believe. Lust, because we have a sexually perverse world. Children have been exposed to sexuality, and sexuality not in a healthy way, from our music videos, our movies, our entertainment industry, comedies, skits that people put online. There is a perverseness of sexuality that people have been exposed to.
Rape victims have been reduced to the culture of silence, especially in the community where they face a lot of stigmatization. This has forced many victims to deal with the emotional stress alone, making their perpetrators a free man.
Lack of trust in relationships. I do not trust that if I tell this person, they would support me. So people keep quiet. I also believe that people that shame victims are largely people that are uneducated. They may be literate, but they are uneducated. So we have a culture of incomplete education on the concept of rape, on the rape culture, as it were.
The fight against rape and sexual assault has garnered more attention, especially from the public office holders. At a recent briefing in Abuja, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, condemns the attack, pledging the support of the government to bring the perpetrators to book.
This government has a zero tolerance for any crime, especially the crime against gender and against the most vulnerable. So we have not just speaking. We are taking action, and I can assure you, by the end of the day, the police will tell us how far they have gone.
Mental health advocates, rights activists have continued to call for the support of the federal government to invest in the mental health sector, as well as grow awareness, especially among children in the remote areas.
Our laws have to be reformed. I have to be able to trust that if I have a child and my child is abused, I have to be able to trust that the justice system would back me.
The laws are inadequate. It takes forever. We need to put laws in place that clearly punish rape and sexual violence. Then we need to fast-track the justice system, right? We have cases as far back as a 4-year-old was raped by a 42-year-old man, I believe, in 2016, and they just got justice for that case in 2020. What does that tell you?
According to a national survey on violence against children in Nigeria, 1 in 4 women had experienced sexual violence in childhood, with approximately 70% reporting more than one incident. Only 5% sought help, and only 3.5% received any services. To this effect, human rights group Amnesty International has urged the Nigerian president to declare rape a national crisis. Adeshawa Odushoga, TV360, Lagos.
Lawmakers at the House of Representatives have voted against a motion seeking to recommend castration for rapists. The House at the plenary on Thursday rejected the motion, which was earlier recommended by a member, James Faleke. Faleke had recommended that persons found guilty of rape should be castrated. But the lawmakers asked the police inspector general to immediately commence an investigation into the reported cases of rape across the country. The rep's rejection of the recommended punishments for rapists comes as the Senate pledges to protect the interests of women in the ongoing constitutional review process. Ben Akabweze, Director General of Nigeria's Budget Office, has clarified that the allocation for the renovation of the National Assembly Complex in 2020 budget is 9.25 billion naira and not 27 billion naira as was reported on social media. Akabweze said this on Thursday while reacting to reports on the planned renovation. He explained that the allocation to renovate the National Assembly complex was initially 37 billion naira, but was cut down by 75% to 9.25 billion naira due to the impact of COVID-19 on government revenues. The budget DG also added that the allocation for Universal Basic Education and Basic Healthcare Provision Fund was not slashed but was adjusted to fit the 1% of the Consolidated Revenue Fund as stipulated by the law. The House of Representatives has resolved to summon service chiefs over the rising spate of insecurity in the country. The service chiefs include the National Security Advisor, Babagana Mungono, Chief of Defence Staff, Gabriel Olunishaki, as well as the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, and the Director General, Department of State Services, Yusuf Bichi. The summons were issued based on a motion moved by a member, Sada Soli, over the increasing attacks by bandits in some states in the north central and northeast zones of the country. The lawmakers resolved that the top security officials should address the House next week. The federal government and Federal Ministry of Environment says no fewer than 57 sites at Ogoni Land in Rivers State are currently being cleaned up. This was part of the key performance report presented to the President Muhammadu Buhari at the just concluded Federal Executive Council meeting in Abuja. Our correspondent Oyin Adekunle has more in this report.
It is the first meeting of members of the Executive Council after 2 weeks. Minister of Information and Culture, who reported on behalf of the Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, disclosed that Council approved the sum of 148 billion naira as refund of monies spent on reconstruction of some federal roads in 5 states.
Cross rivers with 20 roads and 1 bridge, it should be repaid, it should be refunded 18 billion 394 million 732,000. Ondo, 6 roads will get a refund of 7 billion 822 million 147,000. Osun, with 2 roads and 1 bridge, will get a refund of 2 billion 468 million 938,000. Bayelsa, with 5 roads and 1 bridge, will get a refund of 38 billion 404 million 564,000. And Rivers, with 3 roads and 3 flyover bridges, will get a refund of 78 billion 953,067 naira.
In his own briefing, the Minister of Water Resources said FEC approved 8 billion naira for the reactivation and completion of Farim Ruwa Multipurpose Dam in Nasarawa State.
It's a multipurpose dam project that also has potential for water supply, irrigation, and hydropower. 20 megawatts hydropower station. In fact, that was the initial plan for the project. So what we intend to do at federal government level is to finish the dam, and then eventually we hope that we can get a concessionaire to take over the component of the hydropower, which will include construction of the powerhouse, installing the turbines and the transmission lines.
On his part, the Minister of Environment gave updates on the ongoing Ogoni cleanup in Rivers State.
We are currently cleaning up 21 plus 36 sites in the Ogoni. All these are impacted areas with hydrocarbon. So that is a very big project. We have already created 765 jobs currently, and more are coming because there is a program that is starting on training of 400 women in the areas of agriculture, aquaculture, and poultry. This is all way of improving the livelihood of those people.
Council also approved the sum of 1.6 billion naira for the design and construction of a second runway at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja.
This is the consultancy part of it, and it's for 12 months. But what I want to assure the public is that this procurement, the consultancy services, a lot of work had been done. It will be fast track, and it is the intention of the ministry to conclude before the end of the year, so that the balance of money that we have in the budget, we can appoint a contractor and commence the construction of the second runway. And we hope to achieve the second runway, if awarded, before the end of the life of this administration.
Aside from the consideration of memos, the meeting also considered issues bordering on the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and how to mitigate its effects on the Nigerian people and economy. Oyi Adekunle, TV360 Nigeria.
Business Update is up next on News Now. Do stay with us. You're welcome back. Here's Oyi with the latest in business.
Thank you, Aneta. Oil prices dropped on Thursday, reversing gains in the previous session on concern over whether major crude producers will be able to agree to extend record output cuts, heightened by worries over a huge build in U.S. distillate inventories. Brent crude futures fell 1.18% to $39.32 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures slid 1.80% to $36.62 a barrel. Saudi Arabia and Russia, two of the world's biggest oil producers, have agreed to support extending into July the 9.7 million barrels per day in supply cuts backed in April by the OPEC Plus group, comprised of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and other major producers. But they failed to agree on holding an OPEC Plus meeting on Thursday to discuss the cuts, with OPEC sources saying it would be conditional on countries that have not complied with their targets, so far deepening their cuts. We'll take a break here and return with Stock Market Review.
In the last 3 years, we have built a multi-purpose center, which is the envy of all in our constituency. And I can tell you that the people who are living there are already enjoying it.
Guy, do you think what this man just said is true? See, I seriously doubt. I'm sure it's one of those their silly lies.
And wait, do you know there's a way to find out if these things he's saying is true or not? This is the Construct app. It gives people like us a sure way to track implementation of constituency projects. It gives valid and verified information on location of projects, amounts allocated, amount funded, the level of job done, and even the profiles of concerned legislators. You and I can post directly on this app.
Are you serious?
This is the Go-To app if you want to know how our Commonwealth is being expanded by the government.
Wow. Let's even see if what this man said is true. Show me.
The Construct app is developed by Other People Nigeria with support from USAID and is available on both Google Play Store and Apple Store.
And it's true.
Of course, I told you.
It was a bearish market today on the NSE as investors resumed sell-offs and reversed all the gains from previous session. The All-Share Index, which opened at 25,407 basis points, dipped by 0.38% to close at 25,312 points, while investors made over 50 billion naira loss. And this decline was accompanied by a reduction of about 83 million in the volume of trading, and the value of trade also fell from 7 billion naira in previous session to 5.2 billion naira today. And moving on now, we see MTN Nigeria witness sell-offs in the shares today, going from top gainer to loser with a 2 naira drop in the value of its share price. Guarantee Trust Bank, Custodian PLC and GlaxoSmithKline also saw a decline in their share prices today. Now leading the gainers chart is Dangote Cement, making a rebound from previous losses, and Dangote Sugar, of course, filling up the first and second spots on the chart with a 1 naira 40 kobo and 95 kobo increase respectively. Both equities are trailed by Flour Mill and CNI Leasing, and Flour Mill is boosting gains of 85 kobo and CNI leasing, just like Dangote Cement making a good comeback from losing 50 kobo yesterday to gaining 45 kobo today, closing at 5 naira and 30 kobo per share. And moving on now to the foreign scene, rising unemployment claims in the U.S. dampened trading on both the FTSE and Dow Jones, but Nikkei rallied to a 3-month high today as a rapidly weakening yen lifted auto sales in Japan. And that's it from here. It's back to you now, Anita.
Thanks for the business updates, Oyi. And moving on now to the foreign scene, the Libyan army says it's taken over control of the capital city, Tripoli, pushing out militias loyal to Khalifa Haftar. Following the Thursday attack, the Libyan government says its forces have now moved into another city to the southeast, the last stronghold for Haftar in western Libya. On Wednesday, the Libyan army of the internationally recognized government managed to retake Tripoli airport from Haftar's militias. In March, the Libyan government launched Operation Peace Storm to counter attacks on the capital and recently regained strategic locations, including the Al-Watiya air base, in a major blow to Haftar's forces. Libya's government was founded in 2015 under a UN-led agreement, but efforts for a long-term political settlement failed due to the military offensive by Haftar's forces. New charges have been announced against all of the sacked police officers involved in the death of African-American man George Floyd in Minneapolis. According to court documents, the charge against Derek Chauvin has been elevated to second-degree murder, while the other 3 officers, previously uncharged, face counts of aiding and abetting murder. Floyd's death has sparked huge protests across the U.S. against racism and the police killings of black Americans. The vast majority of demonstrations over the past 8 days have been peaceful, but some have turned violent and curfews have been imposed in a number of cities. The management of Heartland FC have accused the former chairman of the club, Chibuzo Etuemena, and the former secretary of the club, Kajetan Uokpara, of financial mismanagement. According to the Owerri-based club, the duo failed to clear all the contracts they brokered on behalf of the club during their tenure from July 2015 to July 2019. In a statement released by Heartland's Director of Communications, Solomon Onu, the board alleged that €15,000 was also missing from the club's domiciliary account, adding that the duo also refused to hand over the club's property in their possession properly to the current management. Both men, however, denied any wrongdoing, and during Etuemena's tenure, Heartland signed deals with kit manufacturers LIG and Jordan Red. The club also embarked on a 2-week training tour of Turkey. And that's it on News Now for today. Thank you for watching.